Okay, we're live on YouTube. Officer Arnett Lee, is it Lee? What is your last name? Lee?
Lee. Lee.
Okay. Can you do a video so that we can see you?
Uh, it is a video.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and swear you in so we can start as soon as the ADA framing is available. Do you swear from the information you give, any testimony you provide in the matter of the state versus Shawanda Kilgore is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, self you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. 1 second, okay?
Officer, would you please tell us your name and how you're employed?
I'm Clayton County Police Department. I'm Officer Lee.
And Officer Lee, how long have you worked with the Clayton County Police Department?
I'm still in training. I've been with them for 10 weeks.
Were you working with the Clayton County Police Department on August 8th of 2020 around 7:30?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that 7:30 a.m. or p.m.?
It was AM.
While you were working, did you have a supervisor, someone with you since you're still in training?
I did.
Who was with you?
Officer Fossil. Casey Fossil.
Okay. On that particular day and time, did you respond to 7694 North Main Street in reference to an armed robbery that happened?
Yes, it happened a day prior.
Just so we're clear, it happened allegedly on August the 7th of 2020?
Yes, ma'am.
What is at this address? Is it a house? Is it a store? What is it?
He met us at the convenience store, the Happy Store. He met us at the convenience store. It was down the street from the motel.
When you say he met you all there, who are you referring to?
The victim, Michael Sanders.
And you also mentioned a motel room. Where did the alleged incident take place?
At Sundown Suite, room 119.
How far is that hotel from the Happy Store?
Driving or walking?
Well, I think you said earlier it was down the street or something like that.
Yes, walking is probably like two minutes, maybe 3.
When you arrived there to meet with Mr. Sanders, was he alone?
Yes, it was.
What did he indicate that happened on August 7th of 2020 at the Sundown Suite?
He say he met with Miss Kilgore the day prior at Lucky Food Mart, which is across the street from Sundown as well. And
You're breaking up a little bit, Officer Arnett.
Yeah. Okay. He met her at Lucky Food Mart, which is across the street from Sundown, a day prior on the 7th. And he was asking around, it happened like around like 2200. He was asking her for sexual favor. And
you're breaking up a little bit. Repeat that for us.
They met at Lucky Food Mart on the 7th, on August 7th. And he was asking her for sexual exchange favor.
He asked her for, say that one more time for me.
You choose if he can exchange sexual favor.
A sexual exchange favor?
Yes.
What did you understand that to mean?
Meaning he was looking to buy, looking for a prostitute, and he advised me that for $50 U.S. currency.
What was your understanding that Mr. Sanders was going to pay $50 for?
he wanted, it was at 2200, and I guess they met up, and he wanted to look for sexual favor, and agreed she agreed upon that, and they met at room 119.
Okay, just so we're clear, when your understanding is who paid who money?
Can I say that again? It broke up.
Who was the person paying the money?
Sanders was the person paying the money.
And who was he paying the money to?
Miss Kilgore.
I'm sorry?
Miss Kilgore.
What was Miss Kilgore supposed to do after she received the money?
Well, he made it clear that it was for sexual favor, and she agreed.
Now, is your understanding that the two of them went to the Sundown Suite in room 119?
Yes, ma'am.
What did Mr. Sanders indicate that happened once they got to the hotel room?
He said it didn't happen, but he gave her the money and she took it. And then after that, she wanted him to leave.
What happened after she said that she wanted him to leave?
Mr. Sanders didn't want to leave, and then I guess she went to the door and she yelled out to two men that were sitting on the bench. One, Mr. Vosret, which is her boyfriend, and it was another guy, Eric Ray. And I guess since she was yelling out for their name or something, her boyfriend trying to enter the room, and he noticed a guy was trying to open the door with a key card, so he was pushing against it, and Mr. Sanders, I guess he just exited out the motel, and then they confronted him.
Okay, let me go back so make sure we're clear. When you said that he thought that someone was trying to enter the room with a key card, who was the he?
He is the boyfriend, Thomas Roosevelt, which is the boyfriend.
Okay, so was Mr. Thomas already in the hotel room, or was Mr. Thomas the person trying to come into the hotel room?
Mr. Thomas was the guy sitting outside on the bench of the parking lot.
Yeah. All right, because I think I just want to make sure we're not confused. So was it Mr. Sanders who thought someone was trying to come into the room?
No, Mr. Sanders heard the key card were trying to enter the room, and he pushed the door back so he can't come in the room.
Okay. Was Mr. Sanders able to keep people from coming into the room?
No, he tried, but then Mr. Roosevelt kept pushing it, so he just exited out the room. No, Mr. Sanders exited out the room.
What happened after Mr. Sanders exited out of the room?
He exited out the room. The boyfriend, Mr. Roosevelt, was trying to fight him, and then the other offender, Eric Ray, came from behind him with the shotgun, and Mr. Sanders took off running. And then they chased after him, claiming, stating that they want all his money. He emptied out his pocket, dropped all his money, and that's when they stopped chasing him. And Miss Kilgore threw all his things outside of the motel.
What items were taken from Mr. Sanders?
His Bluetooth, his phone, his teeth, his clothes, and his shoes.
Was he able to tell you how much money was taken?
Yes, it's a total of $330.
When you and Officer Fossil arrived on the scene, were you able to locate Mr. Thomas or Mr. Ray?
We located Mr. Ray because he had on Mr. Sanders' shoes, the black and white shoes that he left behind. He had on his shoes, so we made contact with Mr. Ray and asked him about the shoes.
Okay. Were you able to review any video surveillance at the hotel?
Yes, Officer Foster and located the video.
Were you able to watch the video when you were there on the scene?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us what you observed on the video.
I observed Mr. Thomas trying to get into the room, and it was a little struggle for a few moments, and then Mr. Sanders exit the motel, the room 119, and Mr. Ray came behind him with the shotgun, and he took off running. Mr. Sanders fell a little bit, and then he emptied out his pocket, and then they stopped chasing him.
Did the video show Mr. Sanders and Miss Kilgore at all?
No, ma'am.
Did any parts of the video were you able to see Miss Kilgore?
Just when she threw her things out the room.
Were you able to get a statement from Miss Kilgore?
She didn't want the right one.
Did she give a verbal statement?
Yes, of saying she didn't want the right one. Yes, ma'am.
No. Did you get a chance to meet with Miss Kilgore at the scene?
Yes, ma'am. I did.
What did she advise had happened?
She advised that she advised him that he needed to charge his phone, and she gave it was $10. She charged him $10 to charge his phone.
Did she say anything about yelling for her boyfriend or Mr. Ray?
Yes, she did, because she said Mr. didn't want to leave the motel.
So tell us exactly what she said about her boyfriend and Mr. Ray.
She said Mr. Sanders. Then I guess when he went to the bathroom, he started coughing. When he came out, she wanted him to leave, and when he didn't want to leave, she screamed out for Thomas and Ray, and then I guess they came to assist her.
Did Mr. Thomas or Mr. Ray make any statements about what happened?
Mr. Ray said that he heard a fight, and he came to see what happened, trying to break it up. And he told me the shoes that he got, he bought it from somebody else. On the same night that it happened, he bought it from another guy from a couple motel down.
Did he make any admissions regarding the gun he had and running towards Mr. Sanders?
No, ma'am.
You say he did not make any admissions?
No, he said he don't know nothing about the gun or about the. He said he just heard a fight and just came out to help.
Is that what Mr. Ray said or Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Ray, that's what Mr. Ray said.
And Officer Lee, do you have your report?
Yes, ma'am.
Would it help you to refresh your recollection to review your report?
The witness has not indicated that he's had any memory problems. He's given a statement. And
Is Mr. Toe speaking, Ms. Freeman? Can y'all hear?
I hear somebody, I can't tell who.
I think it's the court reporter.
no, it's me, Judge.
No,
Was
Mr.
it?
Toes was speaking. Yeah, real low.
Oh,
We can
he
hear
has
you.
some question. Yes, you're right. You're right. You're right. Yes.
Can the court hear me?
We
We
can
can-
barely hear you, Chris.
But I don't know that. Are you saying something?
Yes, I was posing an objection, but you all cannot hear me?
We hear you a little bit better now, but you're kind of muffled.
Officer Lee, did you have time to review your report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you think that your memory has been refreshed after reviewing your report?
Yes, ma'am.
So do you recall whether or not Mr. Ray made any admissions regarding the gun?
Judge, I'm trying to log in under another computer since you all cannot hear me.
I see you.
So I'm gonna log out of this one and come in on the other.
I see. Okay.
Can the court hear me better now?
Yes, but way better. ADA Freeman, can you repeat your question? I think that now we can hear Attorney Toles way better.
Okay, thank you. Officer Lee, I was asking, after you reviewed your report, if your memory has been properly refreshed, do you recall whether or not Mr. Ray made any admissions about the gun?
Yes, ma'am. He didn't make anything about the gun.
Did Mr. Thomas make any statements about the gun?
No, ma'am. He didn't say anything about the gun either.
Were you able to retrieve any of Mr. Sanders' items on Ms. Kilgore?
It was in the dumpster. The only thing we could retrieve was the phone and the Bluetooth. We got everything else back but the phone and Bluetooth.
Were you able to retrieve some of the US currency that Mr. Sanders had?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was that located?
It was located on Miss Kilgore.
It was located on her person?
Yes. Doing a search, Miss Foster found it on her bra. It was inside her bra.
Did all of this take place in Clayton County?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Your witness, Attorney Toles.
Yes, Officer Lee, I guess I want to just kind of start off because there seems to be some agreement amongst the facts here in this particular case. The victim, there's no disagreement here that you could find that Ms. Kilgore and Mr. Sanders were going to engage in some type of sexual activity for money at the Sundown Hotel, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Sanders, he admitted that he was exchanging money for a sexual favor.
Okay. In exchange of that money was for $50, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there's no disagreement about that. Ms. Kilgore doesn't really deny that, or that's correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. And they also agree that they actually did make it to the room, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And they also agree that at some point something occurred that Ms. Kilgore wanted Mr. Sanders to leave the room, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it wasn't at this point two guys came breaking in the door, robbing him, and it was like some type of setup at this point, right?
You said, okay, say that again. Break up a little bit.
So it wasn't a situation where Ms. Kilgore had these guys just came in unannounced, kicked in the door, and tried to rob him in her room. That's not this particular situation, right?
Yes, I mean she did call out for somebody outside the room, which was her boyfriend.
But it wasn't like they came in unannounced. It wasn't like she was in there distracting him while two guys came in with guns trying to rob him. That's not what happened here, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, what happened here, sir, was a disagreement between Ms. Kilgore and Mr. Sanders about his permission to stay in her room, correct?
I mean, she invited him to the room, so I'm pretty sure it wasn't. I'm pretty sure it was her permission.
Right. She invited him to her room because it's her room, correct?
That's correct.
And if she doesn't want her, she's a woman. She can tell a man to get out of her room. That doesn't need to be there, correct?
I mean, yeah, you correct, but if she didn't want him in the room in the first place, why take the money?
But she can eject him from the room, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Because we're talking about $50, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you did an investigation, correct? Did you investigate what the argument was about?
It was about she didn't want him in the room no more, and he paid $50, so that was the argument was about.
Okay. So this was called the Sundown Hotel, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sundown Suite. Sundown
Suites. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, was there anything else down that night at the Sundown Hotel between Ms. Kilgore and Mr. Sanders? Is there anything else that was allegedly down?
I'm gonna object. I don't understand the question when Mr. Toles is saying was anything else down. I don't
either. I think it's maybe a play in the name for the sundown. I don't know. Why don't you rephrase your question, counselor, so that we understand? I don't even understand what you mean by down.
Okay, well, I'll be more direct. Isn't it true that Mr. Sanders could not get an erection in the hotel room, which is why he was asked to leave because he was taking too long to get an erection? Isn't that what he told you?
No, he didn't, sir. He didn't say he didn't say that it took him a long time to get an erection. No, sir. It didn't even happen.
It didn't happen.
It didn't happen. Like she just kicked him out. Like after he paid, she kicked him out.
That would really happen?
I'm going to object to that question. What Mr. Toles said is that what really happened. He asked.
I mean, isn't that calling for speculation on the part of this particular witness? How would he know
unless somebody told him the truth? Yes. About what happened? Yes.
I'm going to object again. The officer has already testified as to what Mr. Sanders told him. And so anything else would be speculation.
Unless you have a witness that you're going to put up to counter what Officer Lee is testifying to. And Mr. Sanders said.
I'm just asking if that was ever discussed by Officer Lee and Officer Sanders about his ability to maintain an erection.
The officer has already answered the question.
Is that a no, Mr. Lee?
Again, Your Honor.
He did. He answered it. Let's not go too much further into this.
Okay. So there was a discussion that Ms. Whatever this is an illegal transaction, correct? You can't have sex for money, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and you can't make some girl sleep with you just because you gave her money, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so at the time that Ms. Kilgore, she asked him to leave several times, correct?
Yes, sir.
He refused to leave, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So because she could not get him out of her room, that's when she opened the door to her room and asked the gentlemen that were, I guess, hanging out to please remove this man from my room, correct?
You, the boyfriend, yeah, you can say that.
But even after and this was an earshot of Mr. Sanders, but even after she yelled down to them to please remove this man from my room, Mr. Sanders made a decision to basically barricade himself in the room with Miss Kilgore, correct?
And for his safety, yes, sir.
For his safety.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so the gentleman came into the room, and again, they asked Mr. Sanders, you need to leave, correct?
Yeah, can you say that? You said the gentleman asked him to leave?
I'm asking you.
No, can you say that? Can you ask the question again?
When the gentleman got up to the room and he was still into the room, didn't they too ask him to leave the room?
The gentleman didn't ask him. Like, he was just trying to get in the room.
Okay. Did he get into the room?
No, sir.
He never
Mr.
entered the room.
Mr. Santa exit the room.
Okay, Mr. Sanders exited the room. So now, only at the point that this man has actually had to come up there and come to the door, does Mr. Sanders decide, okay, now I'm going to leave the room, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So once he's out of the room, then he has a separate altercation with the two men, correct?
Yes, sir.
A verbal altercation with them, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And during this transaction, there was some argument, discussion, and then somebody basically tried to, I guess, chase him off the property with this gun, correct?
That's correct.
And then they chased him from the hotel room to somewhere else. Was it at the hotel? Was it down the street? Where did they chase him to?
They chased him out to the front of the building till he dropped all his money. Then they stopped chasing.
To the front of the building. Okay. And Miss Kilgore did not chase Mr. Sanders, correct?
No, so she kept the money and she threw her things out the room.
Right. She wanted him out the room and she wanted his things out the room, correct?
But not the money though.
What money?
The $50.
The $50 that he gave her.
That he left on the counter.
Yes, he left it there. Okay. She didn't take it from him. He gave it to her, right?
She took it.
Right. And there was no gun pointed at him when she got the $50, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So everything that occurred, anything that had to do with a gun occurred at the front of the building between Mr. Thomas and
the gun happened right outside room 119.
You saw that on the video?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But it was outside the room, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And there's no evidence before that Miss Kilgore said to anybody go get a gun, correct?
No, sir.
No evidence that Miss Kilgore said rob this man, correct?
That's correct.
The only evidence that you have is that Miss Kilgore wanted this man and his property out of her room, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. However, Mr. Ray and Mr. Thomas, once he got out of the room and Ms. Kilgore here threw his things out of the room, they had a separate altercation because they chased him, correct?
That's correct.
A gun was presented by Mr. Thomas, correct?
By Mr. Ray.
Mr. Ray. And what was taken from him at gunpoint?
His shoes. Well, his shoe was in the room. At gunpoint was his phone, his Bluetooth, and he dropped his money.
Okay. And how much money did he drop?
He dropped $330. Oh, $280 minus the $50 that he gave to Miss Kilgore.
So $280.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was taken by Mr. Ray and Mr. Thomas, correct?
That's correct.
Ms. Kilgore had nothing to do with taking that money, correct?
Not only the $50, sir.
Okay. All right. So long as we're going on that. So what time did all these events occur?
It happened on a day prior to the report that I made.
Do you know
It
what
happened
time,
August 7th,
you know
around
what time that was? You know what time that was?
2100 when it happened.
I'm sorry.
August 7th.
Sorry, you broke up a little bit. What was the time that the incident occurred?
On 2100 on August 7th.
2100. Okay, so 9:00 p.m.
Yes, sir.
Okay, 9:00 p.m. on August the 7th. What time did Mr. Sanders call the police?
7:30 the next day.
7:30 the next day. Okay. Was he able to give an explanation as to why he took 8 hours to call the police?
He said he couldn't find the phone.
He couldn't find any phone.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That was what he told you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when you called the police and you all went back to the scene, was Miss Kilgore still in the room?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so she hadn't ran or fled or checked out or anything, right?
No, sir. She stated that she stayed there for 3 months with her boyfriend.
Okay. Oh. Now you would agree that money is money, correct? That money looks
sir.
like any other money, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So somebody gets $200 taken from them, unless they got the serial numbers or anything like that, it'd be hard to say if someone else had $100 or $300 that would be the exact same money, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Ms. Kilgore admittedly is working as a prostitute for money, correct?
Can you say that again, sir?
Ms. Kilgore has admitted to working as for sex for money, correct?
She didn't admit that. No, sir.
But through your investigation, that's what you found out, correct?
That what Mr. Sanders and her agree upon. Yes.
Okay. So you don't know what money she had prior to Mr. Sanders coming to the room, correct?
No, sir.
And you don't know how much money she might have made after Mr. Sanders had been ejected from her room, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Judge.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
Judge, no additional questions for this witness.
All right, does the state have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the state rests.
Does the defense have any witnesses?
No, Judge.
All right. All right. Argument.
State waives opening.
Judge, on behalf of Ms. Kilgore, I would submit on prostitution. I don't think there's been any disagreement as far as why Mr. Sanders was there, why she was in that hotel room, and while they were there. However, we do contest that she directly committed or was a party to any armed robbery that may have occurred. The facts are pretty much in agreement that there was an agreement for a transaction for $50 for some type of sex act of some type of kind. That during the room that there was an argument, but that the money that was given was to Ms. Kilgore. This is an illegal transaction. So if you give somebody money for an illegal transaction, there's no obligation on the other party to give you your money back if it's an illegal transaction. Just like there's no obligation on the person receiving the money to give you anything as well. This is an illegal transaction where he willingly gave $50 of his own money. But what we do know is that Ms. Kilgore at all times, her only intent was for Mr. Sanders to leave the room. Now what occurred, why they were arguing, was there some issues with him, or whatever was going on, we don't know. But what we do know that there was some type of argument. And at some point, Mr. Sanders just did not want to leave the room. We don't know why. Was he drunk? Was he high? We don't know. Miss Sanders did not, when she called Mr. Ray and Mr. Thomas, she didn't say, come up here and rob this guy. She didn't come up here and take this guy's money. She said, get this man, get this fool out of my hotel room. That's what she wanted him to do. And what did this fool do? He basically barricades himself in the room with her without her consent. So at some point, I guess, he's removed from the room because this guy's acting a straight fool at the hotel. And then, only then, does somebody, and not at the direction, or at the behest or the recommendation or the direction of Ms. Kilgore, somebody presents a gun to basically get him out of there because he still won't leave. Then all of a sudden, when the gun is presented, that's at that point in time, that's when he started running. Mr. Thomas and Mr. Ray made the independent decision. Again, this has nothing to do with Ms. Kilgore at this time. They made the independent decision to chase this man in the parking lot. Again, this foolishness taking place at approximately 9 o'clock in a public place. They're just running around. These folks are acting silly. And only after they get to the front of the hotel, nowhere near Ms. Kilgore, is there a demand for money or cell phones or anything. Ms. Kilgore had absolutely nothing to do with that. Absolutely nothing to do with that. In fact, she wasn't trying to rob the guy because she was still taking things of his and putting it outside her room. So she definitely wasn't trying to rob him. If she was, she would have kept those things. She's like, get these things out of my room. But even if that had happened, it wasn't, she didn't have anything to do with the gunpoint and taking these things. That was Mr. Ray and Mr. Thomas. So as it relates to that portion of the case, Judge, there is no probable cause. There's no evidence whatsoever that Ms. Kilgore willingly, knowingly participated in armed robbery. Her intent towards Mr. Sanders was get out of my room, get your stuff and get out of my room, and he wouldn't do it. That's it. Nothing about robbing him, nothing about putting up a gun, nothing about telling these guys to put up a gun, nothing. She never came out of her room or anything. And she never left the hotel 8 hours later when the police showed up because she had not done anything illegal, at least relating to an armed robbery. She felt confident in that. And so they said they found some money. Whatever money was taken from this man, you can't say that's his money or that is money. But again, that wasn't taken by her at gunpoint. She makes money. She's a prostitute. She's the one. We don't know whose money that is. So just to assume with no evidence that that's his money, with no evidence, that's not enough evidence. But again, it wasn't taken by her at gunpoint. So I'm going to ask the court again. It's a prostitution. That's been proven by probable cause. But the armed robbery, Judge, there's no evidence, and so I would ask you to dismiss the armed robbery.
Okay. ADA Freeman.
Judge, given the testimony of Officer Lee, and I know Mr. Tolles, it says that she was a prostitute and we don't know where that money came from, but based on what Mr. Sanders indicated to the officer is he wanted his money back. She wouldn't give it to him. He didn't want to leave the room. And when she opened the door and called for the two other individuals, Mr. Sanders saw the gun and he didn't want to leave because he saw the gun. He exited the room, and when one of the co-defendants, pointed the gun at him and said, "Give me the rest of your money," is what Officer Lee testified. He threw down the rest of his money, and his other items were left there. His Bluetooth, he had some shoes, and I think Officer also mentioned his teeth. So the state would argue that Ms. Kilgore, that this was a setup, And that Ms. Kilgore's boyfriend, Mr. Thomas, and then the other gentleman, Mr. Ray, when they went after Mr. Sanders with the gun, that she helped to plan it. She got him to the hotel room. And so we would certainly ask that the charges of prostitution as well as the armed robbery be bound over to Superior Court.
All right, I have a problem with the armed robbery, frankly. I get the submitting this case on the prostitution, that's a misdemeanor, but I don't think that the nexus between Ms. Kilgore and the robbery of Mr. Sanders has been made clear. He was already out of the room when it looks like the gun was, they chased him for some distance and then the gun was presented. I don't know that there's enough to tie Ms. Kilgore with the armed robbery. So I don't find probable cause for the armed robbery. I do take the submitting of the prostitution. So that's a misdemeanor. That $2,000 bond will stand. The armed robbery is going to be dismissed.
All right, thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
All
right, and then Jones.
With Jones, and I didn't know, Chris, is
And
this what you want to talk to the judge about, or what do you want to do?
I mean, this is a case, this is a companion case to
Well,
Henrietta.
we're still on YouTube, so we would need to go to a breakout room.
Yeah, hold on one second. Let me
We're-
get us out of.
And Officer Lee can hold tight because he is on.
He's on that case as well.